Greetings all. Welcome back to Eye of the Beholder, where we look at D&D miniatures from 2003 to 2023 for both WotC and WizKids. Today we'll be finishing up with the last of the Chromatic Dragons, the White and Purple Dragons. The White Dragon is the last of the 5 primary Chromatic Dragons from the OG Monster Manual. Whites are the weakest and most feral of the Chromatics, perhaps due to whatever magical manipulation was done to allow a reptile to thrive in Arctic environments. Remember though, weak is a relative term, as whites are brutal fighters capable of laying waste to even the most powerful adventuring parties. Fun fact, while not particularly intelligent, they remember offenses, real or imagined, committed against them and, to paraphrase Count Rugen, have a overly developed sense of vengeance. Oh yeah, they breathe a cone of intense cold as well. Our first white dragon comes to us in 2003's Dragon Eye set. Called a small white dragon, basically a wormling, it's a good first effort. White with a bluish dark wash, the pose has this white about to take flight, pushing off a rock with its left foot and wings extended as if about to swing down to launch him into the air. There is some nice detailing on the back and wings, but that right hind leg looks a little wonky. Score: Paint 14, Pose 15, Playability 14, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 58. We don't get another white dragon until 4 years later in 2007's Night Below set. This large white dragon seems to have a glossier hide than our previous mini, with a lighter dark wash to emphasize details on the wings and body. Pose is Instagram worthy, standing solidly with tail curled forward, wings fanned to best show off. It's good but not great, especially in comparison to what's coming up, so score: Paint 14, Pose 13, Playability 14, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 54. And we get that great, bordering on tremendous mini as a special release at the end of 2007. Meet Icing Death, Gargantuan White Dragon. The white body is generously covered with a grayish dark wash, really showing off the pebbling detail on the body. The wings are semi-translucent and look as if they were made of sheets of ice. And the detailing on the head is a thing of beauty. Note the red tongue, the slightly different white of the teeth and nubby spikes on either side of the trademark crest, but especially note the pale blue eyes. And while he's in the same pose we've seen countless times already, this mini appears far more aggressive in that pose, hunched forward with forelegs curled. Wait a minute, I just noticed the dark claws. What another nice detail. You know what? I'm done talking. Score: 100. A year later, we get this Elder White Dragon in 2008's Against the Giants set. While not as stunning as our previous white, I really like this one as well. Same white body with dark wash as previous minis, but it's the pose that stands out here. Up on its hind legs, but with its tail swung forward of the body as if about to execute a tail slash, this guy definitely appears to be in the middle of a fight. If the previous mini is just too much for your PC's experience level, this is the guy to use in the fight. Score: Paint 20, Pose 25, Playability 25, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 95. We get our first WizKids White Dragon in 2015's Elemental Evil set, and like most early WizKids Dragon minis, he's airborne. This mini is much darker than the previous White Dragons, more gray than white. I'm not a fan. Pose is much better though. To me it looks like he's avoiding a range attack, legs akimbo while twisting to one side. I'm betting some magic user just sent a fireball in his direction. And unlike other dragons on that thin pole, he's actually pretty solid on there, so no deduction for playability. Score: Paint 9, Pose 23, Playability 18, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 68. We get our second White Dragon Wormling in 2017's Monster Menagerie 2 set. Not a lot to this one. Uniform white with not a hint of any other color. Pose has the little guy crouched low to the ground, head extended and tail up over the body like a scorpion. Not much else to talk about on this one. Let's move on. Score: Paint 10, Pose 12, Playability 12, Pose 11, for a score of 44. We get our next White Dragon in, appropriately enough, 2020's Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden set. Again, more gray than white. The pose has him stalking forward like a cat, foreleg extended and eye on the prize. Hey, any of you old-timers remember the Against the Giants adventure from TSR? One of this mini, along with that mini from, well, the Against the Giants set, make the perfect mated pair for that encounter. You know which one I'm talking about. Score: Paint 13, Pose 19, Playability 23, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 73. Our final White Dragon mini comes out a year later in 2021 Snowbound set, and it's another Wyrmling. Don't think we needed another one, and I definitely don't think we need a monochrome gray one. As I'm sure you guessed, I do not like my White Dragons gray. Pose is fine. It's an uncommon so easy to get, which enhances playability, but what a sad mini to end our run of whites. Score: Paint 8, Pose 11, Playability 17, Pizzazz 9, for a score of 45. We go from snowy wastelands to deep in the Underdark to visit our last Chromatic Dragon, the Purple or Deep Dragon. First appearing in 1993's AD&D 2nd Edition Monstrous Manual, purples are feared denizens of the Underdark, silently stalking its prey through the tunnels and crevices deep beneath the earth. Its claws are designed to dig through solid rock, so that plate mail your paladin was wearing might as well be made of silk. Purples also have 2 breath weapons, a cone of spores that can daze or dominate a foe, or a cone of caustic gas that melts flesh. Final fact: no dragon has undergone such a drastic change of appearance than the Deep Dragon. You'll see what I mean shortly. Appropriately enough, we get our first Purple Dragon in 2005's Underdark set. This mini perfectly encapsulates the original description of a Deep Dragon. Slender with snake-like bodies, narrow wings, and thin limbs. Honestly, it looks a little on the dainty side to me. Paint-wise, it's more black than purple, but with a nice touch of silver outlining the wing bones and luminous eyes to complete the look. Yeah, it's a little dainty, but I like it. Score: Paint 17, Pose 15, Playability 17, Pizzazz 21, for a score of 70. Four years later, we get our second Purple Dragon in 2009's Monster Manual Savage Encounters set. Now this guy is definitely purple, two-tone purple in fact, with a lighter shade on the underbelly and wings. Not sure what that spot of gray he's stepping on is. Rock, I suppose. Pose-wise, he's much more animated than the previous mini, standing tall with wings swept high above his back as if he's squeezing through a narrow crevasse. Note the jaunty tail curl. Score: Paint 20, Pose 18, Playability 20, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 80. It takes WizKids 13 years to give us our first Purple Dragon mini in 2022's Fizzband's Treasury of Dragons set. Gone is the slender, graceful body of the WotC purples, replaced with a thicker body and tail, a head that looks more like an eel than a dragon, plus a lighter purple coloring. This Wyrmling's pose has him low to the ground. Note the greenish growths along the neck. Deep dragons tend to pick up fungal growths on their body. Score: Paint 14, Pose 14, Playability 16, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 58. We get a much more impressive version of a purple dragon later in 2022 when the Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse set. The larger size really allows the colors to stand out on this mini. The two-tone purple, the greenish fungal growth on the necks, and the luminous eyes really pop. Pose-wise, it's almost identical to the Wormling mini, low to the ground and head forward. However, the tail is much more pronounced on this one, thick and sinewy, ending in an almost blade-like tip. Score: Paint 22, Pose 20, Playability 23, Pizzazz 24, for a score of 89. And that's it. We're done with the chromatics. We'll be tackling the yin to the chromatics yang on our next video, the metallic dragons, starting with the brass and bronze dragons. Thanks again for stopping by Eye of the Beholder. Please feel free to leave any thoughts in the comments. Goodbye for now.